Private trusts, how private are they? This question keeps getting asked, and I think it's a really interesting one. It usually centers around banking and EIN numbers, and so we're going to unpack a few things with this, and this one's going to be a little longer than normal. So, first off, private and public type of companies, right? So, there's a few private companies that people don't think about that are really obviously private when you really peel it back. The Federal Reserve. Is the Federal Reserve a public or private entity? It's a private entity. Try to find out who owns it. Is the IRS a public or private entity? It's a private entity. Try to find out who owns it. You see, the state has what is called franchise abilities. It is able to, the State Franchise Tax Board, for instance, will charge a tax to allow people to use corporations. Corporations are incorporated entities like LLCs, S Corps, C Corps, and even some trusts for that matter. And so in a franchisee or a franchisor model, what you have is a situation in which the franchisor creates an entity of some kind. In this case, it's the government, these types of entities. And when you use one, you have to follow the rules of the franchisor. Like there's that company with the golden arches, they're a franchisor, and people buy restaurants from them, franchisees, so that they can operate them. If they decide they want to change the golden arches into red arches, they could easily be kicked out of the entire organization. When you run your LLC, S Corp, or C Corp in a manner that is not in line with statutory law, then the government can kick you out. For example, there's someone that the government really hates right now, Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump has his LLC. He was told, I guess about 8 days ago, as of recording this, that he had to shut down his LLC in New York, and that he would have to liquidate his respective assets in that LLC. Well, he'll lose the LLC. He might lose a little money, but you know what he's not going to lose? He's not going to lose his property. His property is all owned by trusts. That trust is in a private company. So the government was able to come after the LLC, which is their franchisee, and they're able to effectively start taking it apart and disassembling it, and now he's being blamed for fraud. Whether he did or he didn't, I'm not here to debate that. So now, back to the EIN. Is a private trust actually private? Well, let's start to dissect it more. If you're going to get an EIN from the IRS, an EIN is used for banking purposes. The EIN allows you to set up a bank account. So the IRS, which is a private company, and the Federal Reserve, which is a private company, work together as private contractors of the government to provide us services. And they, by working together, that you can use this EIN to be able to open your bank account. So if you're a private entity, an unincorporated entity, like these other two guys, and you have the ability to set up a bank account, and then there's all of these franchises that have to follow all these rules that those entities are contracted to effectively provide services for, that people have agreed to. Who do you think they're going to be more interested in going after? Who do you think they could squeeze for more money? Do you think it's the private entity that is actually like what they are? Or do you think it's these public entities that people are using, these public statutory entities like LLCs, S Corps, and C Corps? I think if you put on your thinking hat, you'll realize something here, that the LLC, S Corp, and C Corp is in a rigged game. And the contractors that the government use know that, and they have the powers to be able to either take those entities away, charge them fines and fees, or even lock people up, because when people utilize those entities, they agree to play by those respective terms. So if you want to be like them, the IRS and the Federal Reserve, you would operate privately as your own entity. And so do you have some optics as a result of getting the EIN and bank account? Absolutely. But I'd have to say that those optics on you are much better than the optics on the other types of entities that you could choose.